healing feels abnormal to a person who has lived so long in their hurt that it's taken over everything that they are. Like their whole personality, their drive, who they've become is directly attached to what's happened to them. And there's so many facets to that, and we'll dive into that a little deeper in this episode. But just this general premise that for a lot of people, they are stuck in their past. Like they're stuck in their hurt. They're stuck in the thing that's been said to them, that's been done to them. They are stuck in the worst version of them because somebody else robbed them of the best version of themselves. And I think that we get so caught up with that we allow it to become our identity. Like we give it more authority over us, over what we should do, or what should want, or how we should act or react, that it just becomes our whole life. And this might come as a shock, but you were not meant to be your hurt. Like you're not meant to remain in the places that were the worst versions of you because somebody else hurt you, and or because something's happened, you made some decisions and you hurt yourself. You were not meant to stay in your hurt. The reality of healing is so complex for a lot of us because there's a lot of facets to it, but the hardest thing is that at some point we don't heal because we don't become accountable. Like we don't heal because we don't take accountability over the things that we're feeling, over the things that we're going through, over the things that we keep repeating and calling them process. There are some times that we don't heal because we're saying that we're going through a process when in reality we're just retreating. We're hiding away from what can be good for us, what's potentially good for us. And we don't actually go after the things that are going to serve us and love us and complete us because we are blaming what's happened to us before. We'll say, well, I'm scared, easy one, scared to date because I was so hurt in my previous relationships. But I need you to hear this out, right? Because the reason that we don't heal mostly is because we look at everything from the perspective of our wounds. We look at it from the outwards glance of what's happened to us and not from an outside perspective in. So we're not introspective. We're actually not even, well, we're more reactive than anything, but we're not introspective in ourselves because we're not looking at that reality. Face it from a different position. You're saying that you're not going to do something because somebody's hurt you somewhere else. And it becomes easier to hide and retreat and to run back into that than it does to go away enough while it might hurt and might feel difficult and be pulled, go away far enough where that thing is disconnected from you. The truth is that we keep falling into these versions of ourselves that aren't healed because it's been easier to just continue to believe it. Just continue to say, well, that's what's been done to me and this is who I am. You are worthy of a future that's not tied down to your past. Like you are worthy of something that's so much deeper and so much more than what's been said or done to you. You are more than your hurts. You are more than the thing that has been made you feel like you're not worthy of love or worthy of just being careful. You are not that thing. And until we start realizing that we are not what's been done to us, we'll continue to be who we're not. Because we keep falling and reverting into the safety net of the thing that I felt opposed to the thing that I have to grow out of. It's easier to be dragged by the current than it is to stand up and walk against it. But the beauty is that where you need to be is against the current. And the next stage of your life, the part that's going to fully heal you, because the reality is that there are a lot of parts of us that are never going to be fully healed, but there are parts of us that we can heal when we begin to live in the process of becoming something else and not the process of reverting. When we keep going back and say, well, I'm in my healing stage, you're going to be there forever. There are people that have ruined amazing things in their lives because they keep saying that they're not healed. They keep living in the worst version of them. So as we dive into this reality, this notion that the mountain of healing, you don't heal because it's easier to run away from it. And this is why most people don't want to heal. This is why most people are just content with this. We need to understand that healing at the end of the day, at its core, it's always going to be a decision. You're going to hear 1,000 podcasts, you read 1,000 books, you go to 1,000 seminars or conferences and all these things based on healing. And the truth is that absolutely none of those things can ever force you to heal. It can give you tools. It can give you great ideas as to things to think about. It can give you journaling. It can give you all these amazing things, but it can't do it for you because healing is always going to be personal. It's always going to be a choice that you're going to have to live with and grow through and know that the things, again, that were done to you are not who you are. And not respond from that same place. I think one of the biggest things that happens is that for a lot of us, we respond from our wounds. Like for everything, like for our friendships, for our family members, for our work environments, for even the aspects of our life that don't seem like they're even connected to that thing, we respond from a wounded place because this has become you. It's become the most natural you. So we need to learn to put ourselves in this place that allows us to not dictate our identity with what's been done to us. Like to know that we are not our hurts, that we are healed versions of us. Most people don't avoid healing because it's hard. They avoid it because it threatens who they are. Their identity has been so rooted and so based on what's been said to them or done to them or how they've been made feel or all these factors that they don't want to go against it. And we actually see this in neuroscience. Neuroscience shows us that it's easier for your brain to stay in something that's familiar. It prefers what's familiar, even if it's painful, because it's familiar. It's a familiar pain, so it doesn't have to rewire anything. It just simply stays there. The amygdala is wired to recognize patterns. It's the part of your brain that's almost not almost, it is reactive. And the reason that it's easier for it to stay there is because of that. It's because it doesn't require change. So just to leave that point there, it's not that I'm saying that it's not our fault, because totally not our fault. That's not our responsibility, rather. And not to pawn it off on your brain, but the truth is that there is a factor to it. Like your brain really is trying to keep you safe as best as it can, so it tries to recognize patterns and remain in those things. So I'm not saying that it's all the brain's fault, because it's a part of it, but what I am saying is that there is a part of your brain that needs to be rewired. There is a part of you that needs to change. There's a part of you that needs to speak into that so much often, because this is science. This is what science says. If we speak into ourselves, if we continue to address the lies and we just speak into them, they might not be solved today, tomorrow, next month, but what's going to happen is pattern recognition. Your brain is going to start disassociating those things with what it used to think, opposed to now what you're consistently saying. And it's a powerful thing, because we can now rewire how we need to rewire. We can say, if you ever feel like you're not worthy because of that previous wound, well, I am worthy. I just we weren't compatible there. There wasn't a situation there where I felt where this place didn't make me feel worthy, but does not mean that I am that place. It's being able to understand that you're going to go through things, and your brain is going to try to keep you safe by repeating those patterns. The truth is that pain becomes comfortable before it becomes conscious. Like before you know you're hurting, before you know you're going through something, it slowly develops. And you see this in a lot of kind of like personal relationships, like romantic ones, or even family members, or even honestly even work environments. We see this really often where there are things that are said to us slowly that feel like, okay, that wasn't a big deal, that was just enough. And big culturally, again, me trying in my culture, this happens a lot in the Dominican culture. And this is something that's very stigmatized, because things like mental health, right? If you're listening to this podcast, this is a lot of things, but one of the main things that we talk about here is our mental health, how we feel and how we are, and how do we break away these stigmas and stuff like this. But within our culture, Dominicans at least, there's this very, very big stigma in things like talking about your problems. Like that's a big taboo. You don't do these things. Why? Because it's so ingrained in our culture that this becomes really difficult for us to disassociate with ourselves. Like our part of us is that we don't talk about these things. No se habla de eso. Se queda por ahí, nadie dice nada. And we now live with a pain that has become comfortable because we've become so used to it that at this point we're not even aware of it. Now, of course, now different society, different time, we're living in a very different era, and we are conscious of it, and we are aware of this baggage that we're carrying, and we are aware of the things that have been said to us, and processing and healing from it, and all those amazing and important things. But I do think that it's important to understand that it's in everything, in every relationship you're in, every work environment you're in your families, in your society. It's something that's become adaptive to us because it's become normal. We have this comfort in our pain level that it just makes it seem as if it's just part of the day. It's a status quo, just keeping things through. But sometimes if you don't challenge those things, we'll keep reverting back to it. We'll become comfortable with that. And the big one that we see this in is in relationships. A lot of people aren't trying to date new people. They're trying to date the same person they couldn't save in a different body. Like, a lot of people are reverting back to this toxic behavior. This is why they say, oh, well, every man is toxic or every woman is toxic. It's not that. It's just that you've become so comfortable with that toxicity that your body is now thinking, well, this is normal. We should feel high cortisol levels. We should feel worried. We should feel stressed, because that's what a healthy relationship is like. We have conflated, or rather confused, fighting for something with fighting with someone. We think that if we are not arguing, and if it's not a fight, if it's not a war, that means you don't love me. No, that's not the case. Sometimes the most comfortable and peaceful type of love you will ever have is a slow burn. It's a type of love that builds and grows and develops, not something where you have to feel anxious, where you have to be on top of them always, where it's ultimately toxic. And this has become comfortable for so many people. That same point, we make it so comfortable in us because we think that is normal. So our brain is reverting to this and saying, well, no, this is how it should be. And until we address that, we'll consciously live in that. We will sit in this toxicness because to us, that's normal. Now, I say it always, and I continue to say it and stuff like this, especially the last couple of episodes with attachment and stuff like that, that I say relationships because there's low-hanging fruit. They're really easy to attack and just to be on top of. But this is the truth, and this is every relationship, though. It's not just romantic, because there are times that we have that same kind of relationship with our parents. And it bleeds over to our romantic ones, and it bleeds over to our kids, and it bleeds over to our work environment, and it bleeds over to our relationship with authority and all these things, because, again, it's become comfortable. And when something is ingrained in us that seems natural and comfortable, our brain is going to revert to those patterns. So is there something, and maybe this is you, maybe this is not you, maybe someone you know, or relationships, but I feel like almost all of us have these things that we have become comfortable with that isn't healthy? Like, is there been a pattern that's been developed, a level of just messiness that we have become okay with that shouldn't be a pattern in our life? And until we're able to recognize patterns, and everyone, other people, because that's one of the greatest things you'll ever do, but in ourselves, firstly, we will never change anything. I mentioned that love thing. I think that's always important to understand, because one of the tool books, one of the playbook from narcissists, like right under the playbook, is called love bombing. It's when they will oversaturate you with affection. Well, they'll make you feel like, oh, you're the best thing in the world, and you're this and that and the third. And what happens next is, in the process of that, when they feel like they've already drawn you in, then they pull the carpet. And this is where that love and affection kind of shifts. It's now I need attention and everything. And if you want this reward, because it's almost like a Pavlovian effect. If you know Pavlov, well, somewhere else in this episode I'll mention that. But it's like Pavlovian effect, where you will get a reward based on your response. So if you do, I will give. And I will justify that. And what happens to us is that when we allow ourselves to fall into these things, if you might not be conscious of it, you now start feeling almost like a withdrawal. You feel like it's not there. You feel like, what's happening? Why is this person not responding to me instantly? What's happening here? That is not healthy. That is reverting back to that thing that I mentioned before I mentioned toxicity, that it's easy to dive into that. The most beautiful and passionate thing would be, again, that slow burn, where we develop and grow through it. But I mention that because I feel like this is such a common thing in our society, where we have normalized this type of love bombing, where it's like you meet in 2 days and 3 days later it's everything for them. And a lot of us fall into it. We fall into the trap because you're not used to being loved. You're not used to feeling like that. You're not used to this oversaturated amount of attention. So the moment that happens, you fall into this. It's impossible for us to heal when we're consistently living in things that are oversaturated, where it's too much of it. Because we think that that's going to cover the wound. You haven't dealt with the wound itself, so throwing something over it isn't going to heal it. Falling back into that cycle isn't going to change anything. The only way that we fully heal is, again, by becoming accountable. Hurt gives you a reason. Healing gives you responsibility. Like, if you're hurt, you can say, well, somebody hurt me and they did this to me, and this is why I'm the way I am, and it was their fault, not mine. It's easy to brush it off, but healing says, well, this has happened to me, but this is what I'm doing to get away from it. This is what was said about me, but this is what I really believe. This is what was done to me, but this is how I'm changing to make sure that that's never done to me again, or making sure that I'm an advocate for those things never happening again, or making sure that I'm the best version of me, so that when that thing happened, it cannot take authority over me. It's easy to just become your wound. Like, a lot of us become that because it's so much easier to just do nothing. Think about it. That's it. I'm hurt. That's who I am. That's the end of the day. And I'm not taking away from the fact that it hurt, because it hurt. It's your wound for a reason. I'm not diminishing the effect that it had over your life. And in fact, there are some wounds that we face that are going to change us, but they need to change us for the better. We need to take the things that were meant to kill us and make it into our story. That mountain that you're in needs to be a part of the story as to what was sent out there to hurt you and it couldn't. That what you were expected, because, okay, and not to get too deep into this, but the strongest thing you will ever do as revenge to a person that hurt you is to not allow it to make you something less. Like, not allow them to rob you of who you were meant to be. Not allow them to make you the worst version of you because they did something to you or said something to you or made you feel some type of way. It is not give authority to who they are, who they pretend to be, and not be the best version of you because of it. We tend to fall into our wounds, and we tend to no longer want to do anything and change. So what happens is that, yeah, they might not be in your life anymore. They might have left, or they might not have access to you anymore, but they still have control over you. Because some people, even if they can't get you to do anything else, all they want is for you to never change, for you to be stuck in that thing. The best revenge you will ever have over a person that hurt you is to not stay to hurt you. It's to not remain in that wounded. It's just to become the best version of you, so much so that everything around you changes. And it's not even about access, but at that point, they don't even have access to you anymore because you are the best version of you. I think that we don't change because we're afraid of what that looks like. We haven't taken responsibility over our own healing. We haven't said, this is who I am, and I'm accountable for me. There's so many things that our hurt is going to lie to us about. There's so many wounds that it produces that shouldn't even have effect over you, but it does. I need you to understand that you are not your wound. You're not the lies that you were told. You're not the things that you've been dragged through. But there has to come a point where you start to act like it. Where you start to believe that I'm not that, where you start to actually live in the fact that you were made for something amazing, to actually be this version of you that deserves everything. And that's not to say that even in your wound and your hurtness that you don't, because you do, but it's to live and act as if you are aware of that. Your body may be healed enough before your mind believes it. It's just this reality where our desires, our wants, our body itself desires to be this best version of you. But we keep reverting to the thought pattern that we've developed. We keep going back to this process of our mind thinking, well, again, this is what was done to me. This is how I was hurt. This is how I was left. This is how I was fired. I must not be good enough. And there's something interesting happening in social media where a lot of people are kind of just posting their stories, like in every kind of story. Like today I saw one where there was this girl who was 25 years old and she had her first job and she got fired from her job and she felt like she was not worth it because it's like it's her first but quote unquote big girl job, and in 3 months they let her go. And she felt like she wasn't able to keep up and all these things, and she's attempting different ventures and all these places. And her story, as you go through her reels or her whatever, TikTok, whatever that was, she shows you a lot of herself. She says how hurt she is and how abandoned she feels and how betrayed, because again, this is her first real job. And it just makes me think twofold. One, we've tied our identity to what we do. That's not who you are. Whether it's your relationship or whether it's your job or whatever that is, that's not who you actually are. But two, this other fold is that we are all going through something. And the difference between people who are joyful and then make something out of it And the people who remain stuck in it is not that they're much better than anyone else. It's just that they're more willing to heal from their hurt than to become it. We romanticize suffering because it explains our strength. Like sometimes we want to remain our hurt because it's easier to say, well, this is what's happened to me, but look how powerful I am for even getting out of bed today. Pain feels meaningful because it explains how you became so strong. And for some people that might ring your ears and sound like, wow, that's so awesome. Like that's such a great thing, but it's not, because I need you to understand that you are not meant to be cold and jaded. Like this world is cold and jaded. Don't let it make you like it. Some people lose their softness. They lose their meekness. They lose the essence of who they are, because now they want to portray you to be this tough and brawly and brolic, which apparently is just a New York word, version of themselves that is impenetrable. And you can't be fully you without allowing yourself to be soft and vulnerable. You can't be fully loved without having that openness to it, to be hurt, to be vulnerable, to be weak. We have made ourselves jaded and said that it was strength. And the reality is that now all you're living in is the worst version of you and saying it's the most powerful. Your strength, while growth from this is strength, it should not be based on how powerful you've become. Your healing isn't how strong and powerful you've become. Your healing is actually the fact that you are able to be meek and vulnerable and soft when everyone else is expecting you to be the worst version of you. It's when you're able to just pour yourself out when everyone's expecting you to close yourself up. This is actually healing. That's what healing looks like. It's becoming and understanding more of what you've gone through and allowing yourself to just not be it, to not become it fully, to just be able to embrace this reality that you're stronger because of it. But not that you are closed off, not that you're a rock. Having a hurt heart doesn't mean you have a healed one. Sitting in your pain and in your woundedness, that doesn't mean you healed. That just means that you've created something in quote unquote efforts to not be hurt again. And all you're doing is actually closing yourself off from being loved again. The toughest part that we'll ever have to deal with is this reality. That as we heal, to heal correctly, it does not mean to close off. It does not mean to be unrelatable. It doesn't mean to be boring. It doesn't mean that you're any of these things. It just means that you're continuously growing. And if you're under a rock calling it defense, you're never going to grow. Your suffering doesn't make you this empty shell of you. And if you're using that to claim your strength, then all you're going to do is be the worst version of you, because you think that you need to be stronger than what you really are. The truth is that healing is lonely at first because it separates you. It brings you away from the things that you were used to, the things you were comfortable in. It takes you away from people that might have not understood the stages you need to go through, the grief that you have to go through to grow, the process that it takes to become you. Sometimes that's very lonely. And sometimes healing costs you people who only knew the broken you, because that's who they had authority over. That's who they could manipulate. That's who they had power. And that's who didn't respond to them the way they didn't want to be responded to. That's the person that didn't stand up for themselves. So for them, it's convenient to have you around. Sometimes your healing is going to separate you from relationships that you thought that you were never going to be separated from. But you spend so much time hurt that the moment you became firm, they couldn't respect that. I think that a lot of us never heal because we have become so accustomed to what it looks like to other people. Like the people around us who are again, used to not keeping those boundaries firm with you, who are used to that hurt you because that's the easy you to control, that are so just caught up with the person that they want you to be, that it just is not possible for them to remain when you're the full version of you. They can't tolerate that. And sometimes you can't tolerate it. Sometimes you'll stop being around people who just don't make you feel joyful because you're not doing what they want you to do. The truth is that as we heal, it will separate us. There's some environments that you can't continue to go to because those environments aren't a part of the healed version of you. They're not allowing you to flourish the way you should. And it sucks at first because think about it. No one has this in mind. This is not a part of the game plan. No one's thinking, oh, how do I just allow myself to move from this? If this is all I've known, if it's all I've been in, if I've made my whole life around this thing. But I need you to know that you can trust yourself so much that those things will be figured out. I think that we get so caught up in trying to figure out the future that we don't pay attention to what's happening now. Like we get so caught up in next month, next year, 5 years. We get caught up in that we fail to realize that this now is a gift, that where you're in now, what you're dealing with now, who you are right now is important. And when you focus on building up your core, yourself, healing you, everything else that's going to come after that, that's going to come after regardless. But you have to trust the healed version of you so much so that he or she will solve it. They will figure it out. Make sure that you are not stopping and stunning your healing because you think that people need to stay around. And I don't mean like you're toxic and just like cut everybody out and everyone leave because you don't respond to me. No, I don't mean that. I mean you're real about it. Because there's some people that absolutely, they're not going to fit your life. They're not good for you. They haven't been good for you ever. There are some people that makes sense. And then there's some people that are good for you still, but they're good in different classifications. All these things are going to come as a byproduct of you. But you can't be afraid to lose people as you heal. You can't be afraid to start having boundaries and being firm on them. Your nervous system confuses intensity with love. If love only ever came from chaos, peace won't feel romantic. That same thing I said before. Sometimes we have confused chaos with romance. Like we think that just because something's intense, it means that it's love, and it's not. It's just intense. It's extra, over the top. It's even toxic in some situations. But just because there's a lot of it doesn't mean that it's good. Just because it's overflowing, doesn't mean it's good. Just because there's being thrown at you every second and every minute, every day, doesn't mean it's good. Someone can love you fully and not need to be intense with you. They can just be present to you, which is even more deeper kind of love than anything else. To be present to someone. Healing feels like loss before it feels like freedom. Like there is grief to healing. And that just makes sense. Like I think that's a logical thing there, that there's grief in healing because you have to heal. You have to grow from something. You cannot have healing without grief because there would be no need for healing, right? There's going to be something that has to be removed. There's going to be something that died that you have to grow from. There has going to be something that's caused this wound that you now need to heal from. We can't expect to not feel grief or continue to run away from grief. Because we think the longer we avoid it, the less powerful it is. It's actually the opposite. The longer you avoid it, the more it's going to hurt. There's a story that I've told before, and I think it's always an interesting one, about buffalo. And when there's a bad storm happening, if you ever are like in the Tetons and you see the buffalo running, what the buffalo do is that they run towards the storm. They run through the storm while people are running away the opposite direction, while they're driving away, while they're going the other way. The buffalo are actually running through the storm because the sooner that they run through the storm, the sooner the storm passes them. The sooner they're in the grassy land with the sun out and birds chirping and they're eating, the sooner they go through that storm. People are avoiding the storm so much that they're getting tired and burnt out running the opposite way. When you learn to run towards the thing, you learn to embrace it. But you also learn that it's going to pass, that you're not going to remain in that place. And there's just this beauty about that, an analogy, that we don't have to stay in this burnt out state of running, thinking that if we run further, we'll actually be happier. When ironically, the more you run, the more burnt out you'll become, the more hurt you are, because now it's not just the wound you're carrying. It's the tiredness, it's the brokenness, it's the lostness. It's not you anymore. So as we talk about healing and how people should heal or want to heal or don't want to heal in this episode, I want you to understand that your healing is always going to be your responsibility. The wound may have been your fault, but the healing will be your choice. And it sucks to miss out on something that would be good for you because you've been stuck on so long on something that wasn't. I'm actually going to put a little challenge on this episode. Go and be bold. Do something that the healed you would have done. Say something that the healed version of you would have said. Go apply for the job or the career or the schooling that the healed version of you would have done. And it should scare you. It should feel like this is a vulnerable thing. It should feel like this is something that's out of my norm because I've been so used to everything else. It should feel that way because when we're doing something good for the first time, even the 1,000th time sometimes, it should feel scary. So thank you again for being on this episode. Thank you for listening to this podcast. It means the world to me that anything I say on here ever means anything to anyone. I'm so grateful for the DMs and the messages and all that stuff because that's really what keeps me going. Like, it's just amazing to see that somebody gets something good out of it. So thank you for just being a part of this. And we'll catch you on the next one.